Alright there guys, and welcome back to a year in review. If you're not aware of what this is where I recap the entire year from January all the way to December of what's been going on with me or this channel. Or last year, the world as a whole, since last year was a pretty crazy year and this year didn't stop, it just kept on going. And instead of making a 1 hour long plus video like I have the past 2 years, we're going to be splitting this up into 2 parts. We're going to cover January to June in this video, and then this time tomorrow we'll be covering July to December to round off the year. And disclaimer, and I'll do this disclaimer again tomorrow, there's going to be quite a bit of politics involved in this video because unfortunately politics is literally everywhere. You cannot escape it. Okay, let's get into it. So with January, we have Mr. Beast's YouTube Rewind. If you remember, in 2020, YouTube didn't do a YouTube Rewind for the first time ever. Like, the last time there was a year where YouTube Rewind didn't happen was 2009, because YouTube Rewind did not exist back then. But they didn't do one this year, so instead, Mr. Beast made his own version of it, and it was a major success. Everyone who watched it quite enjoyed it a lot, and it pretty much showed how easy it is to make a YouTube Rewind and actually make it relevant to what happened in that year. Unlike YouTube Rewinds 2018 and 19, as we know. Then we have my Manchester United match reaction series, which didn't last very long. Basically, the idea of it was to do a match reaction for like a 10-minute match reaction to every single Manchester United game from New Year's Day 2021 to mid-May, the end of May, which ended up being the Europa League final. But of course, we'll get on to why that didn't continue much longer a little bit later on. Then we come to the events of January 6th. Oh, that date is very well embroidered in all Americans. Especially the Democrats. They will never let you forget what happened on January 6th, where a bunch of Donald Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building in a protest against the results of the election, basically claiming the election was rigged in favour of the Democrats. Which, considering they changed the rules of the election, and also there were ballot boxes that turned up with exclusively Democrat votes and nothing else. You can see it. You can see why they'd be suspicious of the election. But Joe Biden won the election, and that's all there is to it. When these Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, they didn't actually attack or hurt anyone. In fact, the only people that died from this were some of the Trump supporters, and that was it. And this brought out huge hypocrisy on the left and the right. The left's hypocrisy was the fact that they massively supported, condoned, encouraged, and genuinely incited the BLM riots of 2020 along with the media. But yet here they are when their opponents are doing something similar, but to nowhere near as big of a scale as what they were supporting. Suddenly rioting is now bad. And you may have seen me tweet about this, like a tweet about this when it happened. So a tweet that said, rioting is bad when the left does it, when the right does it, when anyone does it. Because yeah, that's true. It does not matter who you are. If you're rioting, I don't care what you claim you're doing it for. You're not a good person for doing it. And the hypocrisy on the right is, a lot of these people that were storming the Capitol probably condemned the BLM riots, very rightly so, but then are doing something a little bit similar, but to nowhere near as big of a scale. And this ended up leading to Donald Trump having a second impeachment trial, impeachment trial filed against him. He had one at the start of 2020, and he beat it. And he said that he was given and the left tried to impeach him a second time. They were so desperate to get rid of him, even though he was leaving office 2 weeks later anyway, as Biden would be going into office, but they still need to try and impeach him. Now, if you don't know what impeaching is, it's basically, if you get impeached, it means you can't run for president ever again. That's what they were trying to do, stop Donald Trump from ever running for president again. Because they know they won't get so lucky if he happens to be the Republican candidate in the 2024 election. They won't get so lucky. People have woken up to the media's lies about anyone who disagrees with them. Biden then, of course, did enter office on January, I think it was 20th, and officially became the 46th President of the United States. While that was going on, here in the UK, man like Bojo decided we need a third lockdown because the first two worked so well, we need another one. And then we had our third lockdown, which began in January, and went on for half of a year. But yet the third lockdown felt the least damaging, in my opinion. I think the most damaging lockdown was definitely the first one. And we rounded off January, reaching a new subscriber milestone of 90 subscribers. That's right, which put us just 10 subscribers away from my ultimate goal of 100. Yes, 100 is an extremely tiny goal to aim for, but when you're restricted to the type of ways I can make content, it's still a very worthwhile goal for me. And it's what I've been spending the last 4 years working towards. And that's all we have for January. On to February. So starting off with February, quite sad news we got that Captain Sir Tom Moore, who everyone in the UK should know who he is. Everyone. He, of course, was the guy that did 100 laps around his garden last year during the first lockdown and raised £30 million for the NHS just before his 100th birthday. And that was back in April of last year. And he was given a knighthood by the Queen. Rightly so. But unfortunately, he just 10 months after that, he passed away. But he should always be remembered as a hero. Not only for what he did last year, but the fact that he was a World War II veteran. He also fought for this country back in the 1940s to give us the freedom we have now. So he is a hero and a legend for that and for what he did during the first lockdown last year. But sadly, he passed away at the age of 100. Pretty good life, I would say. Next up, we hit another subscriber milestone. Shortly after hitting 90 subscribers, here in February, we hit 95. Just after my 4-year anniversary here on YouTube, we hit 95 subscribers, putting us just 5 away from that ultimate goal of 100. And I was getting more and more excited that we were edging in on that goal every single day by day. Then Donald Trump had his impeachment trial in February. The left accused him of inciting the storming of the Capitol building on January 6th. However, his lawyers pulled up tweets that he had posted, despite Trump had been banned on all social medias for this. His lawyers had already backed up some tweets he'd made that never once told them to riot. He said, go down to there and protest peacefully and patriotically. He never told his supporters to do what they did. And when they did start doing what he never told them to do, he told them straight away to stop. And if they don't, every single person there will be brought to justice. He is saying that about his own supporters. Whatever you say about Donald Trump, his motto of the Republican Party is the party of law and order. He does follow that quite well, that motto. Because did the Democrats ever try to bring all of their supporters to justice who were rioting in 2020? Nope, they were fully supporting and condoning it. And that happened to bite the Democrats on the ass, because the lawyers, Donald Trump's lawyers at this impeachment trial, basically showed 4 to 5 minutes of footage of the establishment media and Democrat politicians encouraging and literally inciting the BLM riots of 2020. Which means they didn't prove that Trump was innocent, they just proved the Democrats don't have a leg to stand on with that accusation, because they've literally done it, or done exactly what they're accusing him of already. And the second thing they accused him of was the fact that he didn't accept and honour the results of the election, and saying that he's a threat to democracy. Yet, his lawyers showed another 4 to 5 minutes of footage of Democrat politicians and the establishment media not accepting the result of the 2016 election when Trump beat Hillary. Showing that the left, yet again, are claiming he is something they've spent the last 5 years literally being. So this ended up being put to a vote of 100 senators. And the final verdict was 57% of the senators said no to the impeachment and 43% said yes, which was closer than the previous impeachment trial, but still in favour of no impeachment. And the left proved again that they don't actually support justice, they only support justice when it goes in their favour. Because the left had a mini meltdown, kind of like the meltdown they had at the 2016 election, just not as big of a meltdown as then. But Donald Trump was correctly acquitted because he didn't do what the left were accusing him of. I don't care if you like him or not, objective fact and the truth should always win out, whether it goes in your favour or not. So all I've got to say is Donald Trump's lawyers probably deserve a huge pay rise for what they managed to pull off. And the left said that Donald Trump being acquitted was a huge blow for democracy. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, my maths might be off here, but 57 is bigger than 43. 57 senators voted for Trump to not be impeached, to 43 senators that voted for impeachment. I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but 57 is bigger than 43, so the bigger number won the vote. Am I getting that right? The left proving they don't support democracy. Only when it goes in their favour do they actually support it. And finally in February, next up in February, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were stripped of their royal titles by the royal family for basically just abandoning the royal family and going off back to America. And I completely agree with what the royal family did. If you're not willing to be part of the royal family, then you don't deserve all the privileges you would get by being part of it. I think it makes perfect sense. Hey, I don't like the royal family, but I don't like Prince Harry and Meghan a little bit more. So I think what the royal family did was absolutely justified. If you're not willing to do your duties as a royal, then you don't deserve a single privilege that you would get for being one. Of course, we've got Meghan and Harry have been massive hypocrites over the last year or so, saying they moved to America to be more private, yet they've done nothing. They've been as public as ever, as we'll get to in March. But finally, to round out February, we have the ultimate goal of 100 subscribers had been achieved. Right at the end of February, we finally hit it. 100 subscribers. The goal I had been working towards for the past 4 years had finally been achieved. I was very, very happy. I'm proud of myself, because this is a goal I thought, when I started making videos back in 2017, nearly 5 years ago, this seems a huge goal for me. This seems a huge goal for me personally, that I don't know if I'll ever reach it. But we did it. We actually hit the triple figure mark of 100 subscribers, and I was so glad. And I, of course, made a celebration video specifically for that for this milestone. And that concludes February. On to March. So, in the middle of March, I decided that as much as I'd enjoyed doing pretty much nothing but vlogging from mid-December to mid-March of last year to this year, I missed making anime content. So I made an update video in the middle of March, basically explaining that anime is making a comeback on the channel, and I've been posting it again ever since for the last 9 months, and I've been thoroughly enjoying. I'd say this year has been my favourite year in terms of anime content to make. This is the year I've enjoyed making anime videos the most. Then we had the tragic passing of Sarah Everard, who was kidnapped and murdered by a police officer in Clapham, which scaled to our version, I'd say our version, of the Blm Riots. Because there were police stations in Bristol being smashed up and burned down by protesters who think they're doing something for a good cause, when really they're just criminals. And the modern day feminist movement hijacked this tragic event in order to push their anti-men, sexist, bigoted hatred agenda. Because of course that's what the modern day feminist movement do. All about spreading hatred towards men for being men. And then a hashtag of not all men began trending, because basically every single man in the UK was being lectured that you have to treat women better. Of course, I didn't take any notice of this, because I treat women exactly how you'd expect someone to treat them, with respect. So I didn't need to listen to any of this, because this does not apply to me. And any other guy out there that feels this doesn't apply to them, don't listen. Don't listen to it, because you don't need to be lectured on something that you do. That lectured about something that you don't even do. And how do you think this damaged men's mental health? Like, think about the good men who've never treated women badly. How do you think their mental health is going to feel after all this degrading stuff you're saying about them? And not only that, they even tried to introduce a 6 p.m. curfew for all men in the UK. Like, could you get any more sexist than that? Telling every single man in the entire country, well no, the whole of the UK, that if you have to be back in your house by 6 p.m. Like, literally discriminating against an entire group of people based on their gender, or because of a few pieces of scum of the earth. How could you get any more sexist than that? Oh boy. Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah Winfrey. This was a big event this was a huge event. I didn't watch the interview. I just listened to what other people had to say about it. Basically, what I got from this is Meghan and Harry basically just spent 2 hours trashing the royal family, demonizing the royal family, trying to stain its reputation and name as much as they possibly could. And Meghan made a very specific claim that one member of the royal family was concerned at the skin colour of what Harry and Meghan's baby would be. But when Oprah asked Meghan which member of the royal family said this, she couldn't answer that question. And why is that? Well, isn't that obvious? It didn't happen. Meghan Markle is the queen of manipulation. She loves manipulating people, and she's manipulated many Americans over the past few years or so. Yeah, it didn't happen. But not only that, it was found out that 17 individual claims Meghan made in this interview were proven either extremely exaggerated or they were just proven outright false. Because Meghan just spent the interview trying to manipulate people into feeling sorry for her. She even made a claim that she was feeling suicidal at the royal family and that she asked for help, but no one was willing to be there for her. Now, is it me or isn't Prince Harry one of the poster boys for a mental health charity? Why didn't he do anything about it, considering he's married to her? But again, when asked which royal family members did you go to ask, where you said you were feeling suicidal, she didn't answer that either, because none of this actually even happened. So this ended up having Piers Morgan on Good Morning Britain the day after have an argument with the weatherman on GMB, and where led to Piers storming off after the weatherman took a personal dig at him because years ago Meghan stood him up. Meghan stood Piers Morgan up. So Piers Morgan walked out off the set of GMB and hasn't returned since, and probably never will. Unless ITV are so desperate because their ratings are so far down bad on GMB, because Piers Morgan's literally the only reason anyone ever watched it, whether they liked him or not, that he was the reason. And finally, to round off March, we have the super straight movement. I haven't spoke about this on social media or on this channel at all, because I've been waiting for this very video to talk about the super straight movement. Basically, what happened is a 16-year-old guy on TikTok basically just made up a new sexuality, and he called it super straight, which basically means you're only attracted to the opposite gender who were born that way. Basically, you're not attracted to trans people. You're not attracted to trans people. That's basically what it came from. And the also loving, tolerant and accepting trans community with the trans activists, what do you think they did when they heard this? Ignored it because it's just a meme and doesn't actually mean anything? Nah, instead, the trans community sent death threats to this guy, and they also mass 1-star review bombed his mother's business. That doesn't sound like a community that's loving, accepting and tolerant of anyone, does it? Super straight is a meme. It's not real. It's not a real thing. But yet the trans community took it so seriously and personally, and then attacked this guy and his mother. His mother had nothing to do with this. And believe it or not being attracted to trans people is completely okay. That's the whole point of a sexuality. You don't pick who you're attracted to, you just are attracted to who you are attracted to, and you're not attracted to whoever you're not attracted to. And most of these people who claim that that no one wants to date them because they're trans, it's probably not because you're trans that people don't want to date you. You're probably just a horrible person. It's probably more that than the fact that you're trans. You might just be a horrible person and shame anyone who dares to not be attracted to you as bigots. Trying to pressure a group of people into dating you because you're trans, that's not a reason that someone should need to date you. It's also a bit creepy telling people you have to be attracted to me, otherwise you're a bigot. That's a bit creepy, isn't it? And this ended up having the super gay, super lesbian, and super bi hashtags trending, which basically because the trans, mostly trans activists, because trans people and trans activists are not actually the same thing a lot of the time, believe it or not. Trans people want to just fit in with the rest of society and not be in the limelight. Trans activists literally act the complete opposite way. They try to shine as much light on trans people as possible when they don't want, even though that's not what trans people want. And basically, lesbian women were being shamed into not being attracted to male reproductive organs. The whole point of being a lesbian is you're not attracted to men and anything about them. But now lesbians are being shamed because they're only attracted to women, when that's their sexuality. How can these people claim these communities claim sexuality is not a choice, right? But then shame people for not being attracted to a certain group of people. That doesn't work. That those two things cannot both be true at the same time. That does not work. Sexuality is not a choice. You just are who you are attracted to. And whoever you're not attracted to, you're not attracted to. It's as simple as that. No one owes you a relationship. No one should be allowed to shame you for not being attracted to them. God, are gay men misogynists because they're not attracted to women? No, exactly. The same rules apply here. The same rules should apply toward trans people. If someone wants to date you, great. If they don't, why does that matter? Why does that matter to you? Honestly, trans activism actually hurts trans people a lot more than you think. Trans activism is a big part. Trans activism actively creates transphobia because it makes people feel that all trans people think like the activists do, when in reality that's not the case. Not that many trans people actually think like the trans activists do. But it makes that makes the entire LGBT community as a whole look makes people less likely to interact with them, which is why LGBT acceptance over the past year or two has gone down in America. Not because there's more bigots around, but because trans activism is so illogical, like believing biological sex doesn't exist. Well, if that was the case, trans people would not exist, gay people would not exist, and women would not exist, if that was the truth. Denying basic biology is something that trans activists unironically do. But yeah, I believe that trans activism is actually hurts trans people way more than it could ever help them. And that's all we have for March. On to April. Right, in April, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, unfortunately passed away. so close to his 100th birthday, but he just didn't manage it. He passed away at the age of 99. And overall, it was a sad day here in the UK because this man was born in Germany, I think. Or was it Greece? It was Germany or Greece. And he was meant to be fighting on the German side in the wars in World War II, but he was abandoned by them. The Germans basically abandoned Prince Philip, so he ended up fighting on our side, on the UK and US side of the war instead. And then, of course, he married the Queen, and they stuck together for over 70 years. But he unfortunately passed away in April. And do you think his physical health was done any good by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle basically trashing him on live TV for a couple of hours when he was in pretty bad condition? No, that probably didn't help. But did they think of that? Of course they didn't. So it was a sad day, and the Queen, of course, would be very devastated. And again, I don't like the royal family, but this still was a sad thing that happened. And who knows how much longer the Queen has? Because of course, a broken heart can be fatal to someone. But the Queen is still going. She is still going strong. And let's hope she continues to keep going strong and power through it. Okay, and next up, in America, the Blm Riots came back, to a lesser scale, but they came back because of the death of a man known as Untitled Wright, who basically was shot by a policewoman who was meant to pull out a taser and shoot him, but she ended up pulling out her actual gun and shot him. And of course, the media was straight on this, calling this a racist attack on an innocent, unarmed black person who was completely innocent and was definitely not a criminal. Then you look into the guy's past and realise, oh, he was a criminal with a warrant who the police were looking for. What a surprise. And this led to smaller scale, but the same type of BLM rioting of 2020 came back and reared its ugly head. Then we hit 100 subscribers again. Yeah, we actually had to hit this milestone twice because sad little twats in early March decided to unsubscribe from the channel as soon as I made my celebration video. And I knew who these people were as well, because it's like, I just know they never subscribed because they were actually interested and wanted to watch my content. They used my comment section as their own personal group chat, and they were just dickheads. And their happiness clearly comes from trying to take the happiness of others away, which is why they unsubscribed, as they were never subscribed to the channel because they actually enjoyed my content, just to be dickheads. So we spent the next 2 months, really, well, the next month and a half, all of March and the first half of April, working back towards the goal of 100 subscribers, and we hit it for a second time. And I tweeted it out, the Anthony Joshua quote when he beat Andy Ruiz 2 years ago in December 2019. The first time was so nice, I had to do it twice. And since then, we have stayed above 100 subscribers, which I'm very thankful for. And then came the big event, probably one of the biggest events of the year. Derek Chauvin was convicted of the killing of George Floyd. Even though it was May 2020 when this happened. It took till April 2021 for Derek Chauvin to finally be convicted. And the left were in an absolute ecstasy about this result, as Derek Chauvin George Floyd did have 3 types of drugs in his system, but Derek Chauvin did kneel on his neck, so yes, you can make the argument. So it's like, well, that's it then. BLM should go away now. You're not needed. The justice you wanted was Derek Chauvin to be put in prison, and he was. So BLM just should completely go away and never rear their ugly heads again, considering they're a far-left extremist political movement. I thought extremist movements were supposed to be condemned, not condoned. Okay, next up we have the stabbing with Mikaya Bryant. Now, you might have forgotten about this story, but Mikaya Bryant was this 16-year-old girl who was shot to death by a police officer as she was actively trying to stab and murder a woman in a pink jumpsuit. The police officer had body cam footage where he repeatedly said, "Put the knife down." She refused to put it down. She never put it down. She kept on lunging at this other woman, so he shot her dead. And the left, just like you'd expect them to do, called it a racist attack. Not that the fact that the police had been called on her specifically, because she was trying to literally murder someone with a knife. This police officer took the life of one black person, but saved the lives of 2 other black people, and potentially who knows how many more. Because the left's idea is Mikaya Bryant should have just been allowed to stab these 2 other women to death. Even though they were black women as well, but because a white person isn't involved, the left don't care, and BLM don't care. Like, if Mikaya Bryant had just stabbed these 2 women to death, BLM would have never said a thing about it. But of course it was called a racist attack, because the police officer shot her because she refused to listen to what he was saying. The media and the left are against you. They're not your friend. They are the enemy of the people. They will constantly lie about anything to fit a narrative rather than look for the actual truth. And last thing we have for April is the Stop Asian Hate movement hashtag began trending, as a lot of Asian Americans were being targeted with hate crimes, and the biggest perpetrators of these crimes were black people. Now, you're probably thinking, why does it matter what the skin colour of the people doing it is? And you're right, it doesn't matter, it shouldn't matter. But the left decided to try and create, as usual, the left want a race war. They want a race war between white and black people. So what they did was they said these anti-Asian hate crimes are the result of white supremacy, even though there's quite a bit of footage out there of black people being the perpetrators of these crimes, not white people. Does that mean white people are not doing these crimes? No, there will be white people doing it. Does it mean all black people are doing it? Of course not. But how about the left just doesn't mention race? How about the left focuses on the fact that it's Asian Americans are being targeted instead of what the skin colour of the people doing it is? Like, they shouldn't care whether it's white or black people doing it. What you should be focusing on is the fact that these anti-Asian hate crimes are happening. That's what should be focused on. But it's not, because the left are racist. They want a race war, and they love driving racial division. Okay, on to May. In May, Donald Trump was fully banned on all social medias permanently forever, which was a massive blow to free speech, considering the reason he got banned on Twitter originally, and then every other social media, was from something he didn't even do. inciting the storming of January on January 6th. He did not. That is not something. He did not incite anything. Then we hit stage 3 of the lockdown roadmap, which was... let's see, what was it again? Oh yeah, it was... I can't even remember. I actually can't remember. Was stage 3 like coming towards the end of it? I can't even remember. I have a video talking about stage 3 of the roadmap back when it was announced, but I can't actually remember what it is. Then, also in May, a petition started floating around social media, trying to have non-binary legalized as a real gender, and this petition got way more signatures than of course it was asking for. And when a petition in the UK gets to, I think is it 10,000 or 100,000? It's either 10,000 or 100,000 signatures. The government legally have to respond to it, and the government's response to this was that non-binary will not be legalized as a real gender because it would be too confusing. And I can kind of understand that, because non-binary is still something that has not been completely defined. Like when you say what is non-binary, and you say it's someone who doesn't identify as male or female, but you can only be born as one or the other, then if you're not, you can only ever be born as male or female. So if you don't identify as either of them, then what are you then? You are nothing. There is nothing in between. So you basically are nothing. You identify as nothing. That's kind of how the government are looking at this. And they're not entirely wrong, because non-binary still does not have a complete definition. The definition of transgender is someone who is born male or born female, is diagnosed with the medical condition gender dysphoria, and medically and socially transitions to the opposite gender to feel comfortable. That's how transgender works. Very simple way of defining it. Yet with non-binary, it's a lot different, because literally anyone can identify as non-binary. And that's not how... Whereas not just anyone can be trans, but anyone can be non-binary. Anyone can just say they are, and then you just have to believe everything they say, and you have to call them by the exact pronouns they want. Otherwise, you are labelled as a bigot, even if they change nothing, if they do absolutely nothing about changing about their appearance. So I can kind of see, if non-binary had an actual definition, and there was a way you could see if someone actually is it, instead of just, I am because I said so, then maybe there'd be a better argument to legalise, to make non-binary an actual gender. But it still does not have a proper definition, which is why I can see why the government decided to say no to the petition. And finally for June, we're not even at June yet, finally for May, we have Sasha Johnson. Now, Sasha Johnson is the most prominent BLM activist here in the UK, and she's a massive racist. She's a massive anti-white racist. She just hates white people for being white. She said she wants to make white people her slaves. She calls other black people the C slur if they dare to disagree to her and have a different opinion. So, she's a very horrible person. But she was the victim of a drive-by shooting in May at a house party at 3 a.m, and the extremely unintelligent Labour MP Diane Abbott decided to just say that she was shot for her activism, basically inciting that a white person must have shot her. Zero proof, no proof to back up that claim, but just put it out there. And then it was exposed that actually no, it wasn't a white person. It was actually a gang of 4 black men that shot at at the house, and she wasn't even the intended target. Again, this is the left. They want a race war. They love racial division. They feed off racial division. It's not the right dividing people by race. It's the left. They love racial division. They're obsessed with race, gender, and skin colour. They never shut up about it and then wonder why racism is so prominent, because they keep it around constantly. And even when she was called out for this, she doubled down and said that what she said, and she doubled down and stuck to what she said when it had been proven what she said was completely false and inaccurate. But who's really surprised? Okay, June. In June, Dr. Fauci, a very big health figure in America over the past 2 years, basically some emails of his were leaked that he actually covered up the how COVID was created, because there was a theory that was labelled as a far-right conspiracy theory last year that the virus was created in a Wuhan lab in China. If you said that in 2020, you were a far-right conspiracy theorist, but yet here in 2021, that might actually be what happened, and Dr. Fauci actively covered it up. Covered it up, and we'll be talking about him a bit more tomorrow in the next video. But that's all I'll say for now on that matter. Also in June, I decided to take my first ever break from making videos on this channel, as for the whole month of June, apart from the very last day of June when I came back, I decided to just have the month off not making videos. Because I'd never had a break in the nearly 4.5 years I'd been doing this. So I finally had the time. I finally wanted to give myself a little bit of a break, a 1-month break, and then I was fresh, ready to make videos again for come July. Ollie Robinson and Megan Rapinoe. Ollie Robinson is an international England cricket player who got cancelled in June for racist and sexist tweets he had made when he was 18 back in 2012 and 2013, nearly 10 years ago. Are people just not allowed to change as a person? And also, what sado is going through Ollie Robinson's tweets specifically looking for something like that? That's so how sad do you have to be to do that? But Ollie Robinson was cancelled and suspended from international cricket. Even after being forced to give a grovelling apology, he still got suspended. He then came back and was one of England's best bowler, proving that cancelling him was a massive mistake. Whereas Megan Rapinoe, not too long after, was exposed for also sending a racist tweet 10 years ago. But Ollie Robinson was 18 when he tweeted those things. Megan Rapinoe, who, if you don't know, is the captain of the US women's national football team. And when I say football, I mean our version, not the American version, our version of football, the real version. She was exposed for sending an anti-Asian racist tweet. Was Megan Rapinoe cancelled and suspended from playing for the US women's national team? Nah, sweep it under the rug. Because Megan Rapinoe is so performatively woke, she can get exposed for being a bigot in the past and just sweep it under the rug. Didn't act like it never happened. It's pathetic, it really is. So if you're not part of the woke left, you can get cancelled for anything. But if you are part of the woke left, you can do whatever you can do anything, say anything, and act like be a bigot and get away with it. It's pathetic. And to round off this first video, let's talk about Scott Cawthon. If you don't know who he is the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's. And he got cancelled in mid-June this year because it was found out that he is a Christian and he voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020 and has donated to Republican politicians who don't have LGBT people's best interests at heart. So the fact that the majority of the FNAF community are gay, that's not an insult, that's literally just how it is. Like, so many LGBT people are in the FNAF community. So he got massively bombarded and cancelled for being a Christian because, you know, because LGBT people, they just hate Christians. They are as intolerant towards Christians as Christians used to be towards them. So it's come full circle. And it was a pretty horrible thing for him to go through because his pregnant wife was getting extremely stressed because he was getting sent death threats from the LGBT community over the fact that he's not a part of the woke left and that he's right-wing and Christian. He's allowed to have whatever religious views and political views he wants. He does not have to appease your worldview. But see, these people have never been told no. So they just believe they are entitled to everything and they can attack and cancel anyone who they'd see fit, and it will have no consequence. So yeah, it was pretty sad to see Scott Cawthon go, especially considering Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach released earlier this month, and he, of course, was the man in charge of making that game, but passed it on to someone else, as he decided, you know what, I don't need this. And he decided, fine, if you're going to cancel me, then go ahead. I'll retire. I have enough, I am financially stable, I have more than enough money thanks to the Five Nights at Freddy's series to live privately, and I don't need any of this drama that's been caused by something that isn't recent. So yeah, it was pretty sad to see what happened to Scott Cawthon, and just proves cancel culture is real. Anyone who believes it's not real, there's something wrong with you. Cancel culture is real, and it's weaponized by the same people. It's weaponized at every given opportunity by the same people who claim it doesn't exist. But that is going to conclude part 1 of 2021 A Year in Review. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for part 2 of 2021 A Year in Review, where we will conclude and wrap up this year as a whole. But until tomorrow, catch you later.